Disney has remade 16 of its classic animated films. What happens when they run out? Sequels? Remakes of the remakes? Animated remakes of the live-action films? Song of the South? Looking at their catalog so far, you'll find the most depressing blockbusters of the 21st century. They look like the scheme of a greedy cartoon executive. What if we just put Tom Hanks on a green screen and CGI'd the whole fucking thing? Which begs the question, are there any good live-action remakes? Before Disney turned their hand-drawn classics into CG blobs, there were other attempts. These are 3 of the earliest live-action remakes. Are any of them good, or are live-action remakes doomed to suck?
Wilma, I'm home!
Most of what the major studios do is they copy things. If a film is a success, they make a copy of it. They'll keep copying it until you can't see it anymore, and when they get to that spot, then they're in trouble, and they turn around and they say, wait a minute, we ain't got anything to copy.
The first ever cartoon with synchronized sound was released in 1926 by the Fleischer Brothers. 2 years later, Disney released their own, making the Fleischer short look primitive. Steamboat Willie seamlessly incorporated voice and music in complicated gags. Its popularity made Mickey Mouse a star. Just like any human movie star, an animated character audiences recognized and enjoyed meant long-term success. So the other animation studios did what Hollywood has always done. Copy.
Okay, fellas, on with the man. Hello, Daisy. Oscar. Oh, lady, lay your mandolin.
It took 5 years for the mouse to meet his true rival, and it wasn't a Mickey clone. By buying the rights to E.C. Seeger's Thimble Theater comic, the Fleischers got Popeye the Sailor Man. Translating Popeye to animation meant creating many of his attributes, from his walk to his voice.
Whoa! Hey, your penknife's bent. I'll straighten it out for you.
Which, unlike most cartoons, would be recorded after the animation was finished, allowing Jack Mercer, the voice of Popeye, to mumble some clever improv along with his main lines.
I better get 12s, huh?
Adding a spontaneous human dimension to the character.
It's a violation for not having no exit that you can go into, huh?
The Fleischers also made Spinach, Popeye's super steroid, a plot device that would set up these great gags that are only possible in animation. As Disney chased a more realistic look, the Popeye cartoons reveled in their wacky surrealism. Reality bends at the will of a gag, but it never breaks because it's grounded in its own reality. The worlds of Popeye have weight, gravity, and dimension, whether it's colorful islands full of toothy creatures or a richly detailed, gritty New York. These backgrounds look so three-dimensional because they are. The parallax effect was created by building the background out of cardboard on a rotating swivel, and then animating the character on a piece of glass in front of it. The machine is called a setback camera. It's the horizontal cousin to Disney's multi-plane effect, where they'd layer backgrounds with the front layers moving faster than the back ones to give the illusion of moving forward in space. In 1934, Spinach sales increased 33%. Popeye overtook Mickey as the most famous cartoon character.
Do you have any preconceived notion of how you're going to do Popeye? Can you talk about that at all?
No, I'm just starting to train for it now, do a lot of acrobatics and work on some man's helping with the voice. It's a lot of...
That's coming.
Is that the voice?
Not yet.
Ah.
The old Popeye cartoons are wonderful, though.
Popeye is the first live-action remake, the first time Hollywood tried to make a cartoon in real life. This is a cartoon where a man turns into a brick wall and uses a duck as a helicopter. It is surreal, wacky, and takes full advantage of the medium of animation. Robert Altman, a master of natural performances and lifelike narratives,
Well, Marlo, that's what I'm here to talk to you about. I really need more than that.
You want to sleep in my bed?
Is the last director you'd expect to pull this off. Popeye can't convincingly be both a Robert Altman movie and a movie where this
Here,
happens.
get a load of this with me suspenders. I'll show you how to do it. Ooh, ooh.
Popeye's production was a nightmare. The iconic forearms initially looked terrible.
Initially, the arms looked like bad hazmat gloves, and they looked like I was wearing 2 huge hand condoms.
So Robin Williams had to wear a jacket for the first week of filming. The weather was so bad, they often just couldn't shoot.
We shot it in this beautiful Mediterranean light, and then the weather it got so bad, even the Maltese go, it's never been this bad in 40 years. So every day we'd all gather in, wait to see if the weather would clear, and it didn't.
The shooting went over schedule and over budget, so Paramount just stopped funding the movie. The operators of the animatronic octopus left the production, forcing the crew to madly improvise the last big action scene. The movie grossed $60 million on a $30 million budget. Not bad, but nothing the other studios were racing to copy. Despite everything, it's impressive how much they actually got right. Popeye wasn't made the same way Disney makes its remakes today. There was no option to just make everything CG. They didn't just shoot on sound stages in LA either. Production designer Wolf Kruger built the movie's set on the island of Malta, the set being a town. The exteriors and interiors of 19 buildings on a waterfront. It took a crew of 165 Italian men, 8 months, 2,000 gallons of paint, and 8 tons of nails. The result is one of the most impressive works of production design I've seen. A creaky, ramshackle fishing town where everything leans on something else.
Your name really Olives?
So what?
Olives oil? You don't look Greek.
Robin Williams perfectly emulates Jack Mercer's improv, and Shelley Duvall, with her exclamations and physicality, couldn't do Olive Oil more justice.
Me father ain't no kidnappers.
Oh, he is too. He's a rat, a crook, a kidnapper, and a bad father, and more.
No, more?
But is it good? Popeye is a mess of jumbled contradictions. From the start, Robert Altman and Popeye didn't mesh. The cinematography is flat and observational, yet there's occasional improvised surreal gags, which are the best parts of the movie. Crazy and energetic filmmaking in the vein of Sam Raimi would have better suited the madcap, gravity-defying world of Popeye. There are dozens of reasons why the Looney Tunes catalog is timeless. Carl Stalling's synergistic music, the perfectly timed gags,
Don't go up there. It's dark.
the expressive hand-drawn animation. But I believe the most enduring reason why we keep coming back to these 7-minute shorts is the characters.
Gotcha, you wabbit stew, you.
Look, Doc. Are you looking for trouble? I'm not a stewing wabbit. I'm a fricasseeing wabbit.
Fricasseeing wabbit?
The Looney Tunes characters have so much appeal because despite most of them being animals, they all have distinct human personalities. Bugs Bunny is the trickster hero who is always in control. Daffy Duck is the short-tempered egomaniac. Elmer Fudd is the gullible hunter who wants to shoot something but doesn't know why. These personalities are conveyed not only through their excellent voice acting.
Well, I thought, which is the toughest voice in this country, either Brooklyn or the Bronx?
So I put the two of them together, Doc. That's how I got the voice for Bugs Bunny.
But also in unique ways each character is animated. The animators are the actors. Bugs Bunny casually leans on objects while chewing a carrot. Daffy Duck pouts, does this, and throws tantrums where he makes himself as big as possible with sharp, desperate movements. Elmer Fudd just stands there passively until he remembers what he's doing, then he leans forward menacingly. I think the most fully realized versions of these characters came from Chuck Jones and his unit. From Maurice Noble's distinct, twisted backgrounds, which always support the story, to Michael Maltese's writing for giving us clever wordplay and ironic dramatic situations, to Chuck himself, who understood what makes animation special.
Animation, to invoke life. Now, you can't say it any better than that. And by that I mean, if you can't tell what's happening by the way the character moves, you're not animating.
To Leon Schleichinger, whose contribution was minimal because he didn't contribute anything creatively, so he did what every producer alive should emulate: he left the artists alone. Looney Tunes is great because the artists had free reign to make what they wanted. So they made cartoons not for kids, not for adults, but for themselves.
Our pictures were never made for children. They were never made for adults. They were made for us.
Luckily, no producer has been insane enough to greenlight a full live-action remake for Looney Tunes. Instead, we got Space Jam, which started as an ad for shoes where Michael Jordan plays basketball with Bugs Bunny, and turned into a longer ad for shoes where Michael Jordan plays basketball with Bugs Bunny. After $1.2 billion in merchandising sales, Warner Bros. Was frothing at the mouth for a sequel. Since Michael Jordan didn't want to return, they tried Race Jam, starring Jeff Gordon, and Spy Jam, starring Jackie Chan. Both projects fell through. Have you seen Gremlins? I want to show you a scene.
The old bath never looked better. It's great. You're doing fine. Thanks.
Yeah, that's Chuck Jones in one of his few on-screen actor credits. Director Joe Dante convinced Jones to play the role since they were friends. Both Jones and Dante hated Space Jam, and it's easy to see why.
There's nothing here a little spit shine wouldn't fix. Spit shine!
Space Jam might have brought the Looney Tunes franchise to the big screen, but not the characters. The movie features warped zombie versions of the Looney Tunes who mindlessly follow the story beats of the superficial plot and say zingy one-liners that don't line up with their personalities.
I wet myself.
So when Joe Dante was approached to direct Looney Tunes back in action, he set out to make it a tribute to Chuck Jones, an anti-Space Jam that brought the characters back to their essence. Here's a quote from Joe Dante. "I can tell you from experience that the people currently running Warner Bros. Have no interest or understanding of that period or those characters. They didn't want to know why Bugs Bunny shouldn't do hip-hop. It was a pretty grim experience all around." Looney Tunes Back in Action stars Brendan Fraser as a security guard. His dad plays James Bond, but is actually the real James Bond and actually played James Bond. So Fraser has to save him from a villain who wants to turn the entire world into blue monkey slaves who aren't blue. They end up going to Las Vegas, Paris, the jungle, Walmart, and a lab full of CG aliens. This is a Looney Tunes movie. The Looney Tunes shorts have simple concepts. The characters have a clear objective, usually to eat, kill, or love another character, all of which everyone can relate to. They would then build gags off of the concept and the human behavior of the characters.
Oh, I hate myself! I know!
No one can relate to saving your dad who is James Bond. While watching the movie, I could feel the clash between artists who had genuine reverence for the original animation and unfunny executives who wanted to make money. In an unprecedentedly moronic move, the studio execs hired not 1, not 12, but 25 gag writers that could come up with new jokes short enough to fit in the moving mouths of the already animated characters, including gold like
That's gonna leave a mark.
There are countless references to the classic Warner Bros. Cartoons, none of which add anything of substance to the story, but they do act as a sort of cry for help while sinking in the quicksand, letting us know that beneath all the sleazy product placement and obvious jokes, there are artists who care. It does bring Bugs and Daffy closer to their richest incarnations. Daffy is greedy and Bugs is cool. But without clever writing, without the pause on a perfect expression or well-timed slapstick, what should have been a loving tribute ended up being annoying noise. Here's another quote from Joe Dante. "The final release version of Looney Tunes Back in Action has a different beginning, middle, and end than the one I signed on to do. Every day was another battle with people who would never have walked across the street to see the movie. At least it's better than Space Jam." When Chuck Jones was experimenting with setting, characters, style, and story at Warner Brothers, at MGM, Hanna-Barbera exclusively made Tom and Jerry, 115 episodes over the course of 17 years.
A good example of being satisfied with what you did is Tom and Jerry. When Hanna-Barbera hit that, they figured, well, we've got it made, and they did have it made, but they couldn't make any other cartoons, and they never even tried.
If your product has a good story to it, it bears repeating. In a cartoon, if it's a funny situation, a sequence, you can play it again and again and again.
Until they had to stop. along with Chuck Jones and everybody else. You see, the way people used to watch cartoons was at the movie theater before the feature films. So instead of a Nissan ad, there was Bugs and Elmer or Tom and Jerry. All of that changed from 1957 to 1969, and animation went from this.
All right, enough is enough. This is the final, the very, very last straw.
To this.
What has Gary Granite got that I haven't got? I can tell you what. His dinner, that's what.
Now, here's something that will really amaze you. Engineering improvements give you a huge 17-inch rectangular screen.
TV brought the cartoons directly to your living room, so audiences didn't have to go to the theater anymore. But the TV distributors had smaller budgets and longer runtimes than the studios did. With less money and more time to fill, the solution was limited animation.
We were able to do a 5-minute cartoon with 1,200 drawings instead of 26,000 drawings. But that was by necessity. That's to stay alive. And, you know, it didn't make that much difference.
It made a difference. Less drawings meant less movement. So if a character is angry, they'd often say it with an angry face, but a locked pose. The Flintstones is a show about family relationships. I can't help but think that the gags about married life and neighborly quarrels would be much funnier with more expressive body language. While the Looney Tunes characters each had unique body language informed by their personalities, every Flintstones character's default is the arms at the waist standing up straight. From the way they move, nothing really distinguishes Fred from Barney from Wilma from Betty. And it doesn't stop with the Flintstones. Since all Hanna-Barbera shows use the same process, all of the characters' movements were homogenized. Meaning Fred Flintstone moves the same as Yogi Bear, who moves the same as Huckleberry Hound. 80% of children's programming in the 70s looked the same. Even the background movement got boring. While Popeye had rich backgrounds made from multiple plates, the Flintstones had a fixed loop of the same few mountains. Creating a work of animation was such a labor-intensive and expensive process that an alternative that saved time and money was bound to replace it. But with the limited budgets of TV, a huge part of what makes animation fun was lost.
As you can see, I'm sitting here with my entire Flintstones collection, and the Flintstones occupies an interesting place in my heart and in my life.
This is Brian Levant and his collection of 140 Flintstones toys. The Flintstones is a popular Hollywood movie based on a popular animated sitcom, which is based on another popular sitcom. It's a strange product to come out of the intestinal tract of American culture. It was the 6th highest grossing movie of 1994, making it the first live-action remake hit.
But I think that the other actors are so successful in recreating the character, because I wondered, how are they going to do this? How is John Goodwin going to be, Fred Flintstone? How is, Elizabeth Perkins going to be Wilma Flintstone? And I watched it, I said, my God, they pulled it off.
For the first time, it's a live-action remake that's completely faithful to the source material. Even if the plot is a minefield of cliché, it's impressive how every actor flawlessly emulates their animated counterpart.
You are my wife, and you are supposed to have dinner ready for me when I get home. In this cave, I am the king.
And what, Fred?
And the drawings were turned into real-life sets, props, costumes, or animatronics, even the goddamn dinosaurs.
It was extremely frightening to read the script and realize that we would have to completely make every single object.
If anything, the Flintstones is a testament to the effective escapism of physical locations, props, and costumes. You can imagine yourself sitting down in Fred's car because it's really right there. It beats Disney's new remakes simply because the artistry is tangible. The movie still sucks though. Looks like these live-action remakes suck. Not because it's impossible to make one, but because the people in charge haven't understood how to properly adapt a cartoon. Just as a novel can't have all 500 pages directly translated into the screenplay, turning a cartoon into live action has its own limitations. Each medium has unique qualities that have to be taken into account when adapting one into another. The stories you can tell with animation are only limited by the animator's imaginations and how well they can draw. What you can convincingly pull off in live action is not only limited by the budget, but also by the uncanny valley. What makes for fun character design in animation, like Popeye's forearms, can be just strange in reality. The ultimate example of this are Disney's talking CGI animals. That doesn't mean a great live-action remake is impossible. Popeye is proof of that. It is a flawed movie, but its strengths prove that it has potential. The best live-action remake I've seen isn't adapted from a specific cartoon, but Kung Fu Hustle has all the wacky, gravity-bending slapstick of a Popeye cartoon, but with a medium as imaginative imaginative and boundless as animation, recreating the same story in live action is most often tasteless. The evolution of popular animation from the 20s to the 70s tells a sad story, one starting with innovation, flourishing into timeless character humor, and then shrinking into limited expression. The evolution of the live action remake is similar. With each subsequent release, there was more studio control, less practical creations, and more soulless CGI. Has the trend persisted? For the live action remake, yeah. If we look at the highest grossing movies of 2023, at number 7, we've got The Little Mermaid. But if we go up, we'll find Across the Spider-Verse at number 6, making a compelling argument for movie studios to copy both colorful, expressive, boundary-pushing animation, as well as CGI-filled rehashes of classic movies. Twisted versions of beloved characters and stories will be shoved in our faces until the end of time, but sometimes we get lucky, and creative artists are given complete freedom to experiment and create something new.